Welcome to the Time2Fly podcast. It's time to give your business wings and take flight to achieve more impact, influence, and income with unique perspectives, tools, and tips from successful entrepreneurs and business professionals to help your business fly. Here to educate, encourage, and entertain you with their own unique perspectives and experience, plus sharing anecdotes of growing up as cowgirls. Here's your host, Nikole Haumont.
Welcome to this episode of Time2Fly. Give your business wings. I'm your host, Nikole Haumont, here today to talk to you about being consistent, especially when it comes to your marketing calendar. We're going to go over tips and tricks on planning and executing your marketing calendar. These are tips and tricks you will be able to use no matter what your business is. Like I said, consistency is key with anything. However, when it comes to marketing, you really want to be consistent and positive. Now, growing up on the ranch, there was a couple of different things that we had to do consistently besides feeding the livestock every day, morning and night, if it was during winter. One of those was when it came to competing in rodeo. Now, I like to do barrel racing and I like to do queen pageants. And with barrel racing, you have usually one horse is your main horse that you ride, and your goal is to have the fastest time while running around a clover leaf pattern of barrels. Now, it didn't matter if you started to the right or you started to the left, you needed the fastest time without knocking a barrel over. And in order to have that, you needed to have a horse that was in shape and a person that was in shape probably too, because for every 10 pounds of weight, you can knock off 1/10 of a second from your time. So being consistent in keeping yourself and your horse in shape was very important when it comes to rodeo. Now, my parents told me, okay, you can rodeo. However, you must make sure that your horse is in shape and legged up. Legged up means ready to compete. The muscles are strong, they're ready to go. So being consistent, developing a barrel horse meant that 6 days a week, I was riding my horse. Now, not every single day, I didn't work on every single thing. Some days we would do long trotting to build up endurance. Some days we would work on our barrel racing pattern. Then usually 1, maybe 2 days a week, I would actually compete. But I had to put the time and the effort in prior to going to the barrel race if I wanted to compete at all. Now, I was competing on young horses because it was a 4-H project for me. The horse that I mainly competed on when I was competitive was Butter, also known as Supreme Show. She is no longer with us, but she was an awesome little horse that I got lots of compliments on. And I did train her myself because I brought her up as a 4-H project. And so I had to be consistent with her day in and day out. I was training her how to be a horse, how to react to the cues I gave her, how to run barrels. And I was lucky. I actually won money on her. So being consistent is a good thing. Another area that I learned to be consistent in growing up was in 4-H. Now, I was in 4-H for 11 years, and one of my main projects was sheep. So we used to raise registered Columbia sheep, and we also ran a flock of commercial ewes. Each summer during the county fair, I would show a fat lamb, which I was planning on selling at the county fair sale. Now, the county fair sale is usually where animals go for a lot more money because the people who are buying them are there to support the 4-Hers, and a lot of times that money goes directly into a scholarship fund or into building their program. To have a competitive fat lamb, they needed to be in shape too. They needed to develop muscle. So every day after school, we would walk our lambs on their halter and lead down to the mailbox about a half a mile, and then we would let them go and they would race back to the barn up a hill. Now, some days we would do this once. Some days, if we had more time, we'd do it twice. On the weekends, we'd usually do it in the morning and in the evening. Besides having great genetics in our sheep, we also had this consistent muscle building program. And we would do well at the county fair. My brother and sister and I would. And so we would win the champion ribbons quite often. And we would have a very high selling lamb, and all that money would go into my scholarship fund. So being consistent, no matter what business you're in, whether you're rodeoing, whether you're ranching, or whether you're doing online marketing is key. When you're getting ready to set up a marketing calendar, you want to make sure you write down things, you document it, you have a systematic way of approaching things. What I'm going to share with you today is what I use for myself and for my client. With Shield Bar Marketing, we can either teach you how to do the marketing yourself, or we can do it for you. A lot of it's going to depend on your time and budget. So these are things that my assistants and I use when we are creating content for our clients. The first thing we do is we actually develop a style sheet. This is so that we are all on the same page about what fonts and what colors we're going to use. So even if you do not have a logo, you can still have a consistent look across all media. So, for example, with Shield Bar and with Standout Pro, my main color is blue. Now, there are different shades of blue. So with Standout Pro, I have a darker, more navy type of blue. So on my style sheet, I call it Standout Pro Blue, and I record what the CMYK numbers are, or RGB, depending on what program you're working in. And the reason you want to record that is so if you switch programs and you're able to customize your colors, you can plug those numbers in and have the exact same shade of blue. And then if you decide to have print material made and you want to pay for color matching, you can tell the printing house, I want this particular color code, and give them the CMYK numbers or the RGB numbers depending on how they print. Most printers that are big printing houses are going to be in CMYK because you can literally create any color. Yes, CMYK is an acronym. I am going to briefly tell you what they mean, and just know that you can make literally any color you want by mixing these four colors. C is cyan, which is a shade of blue. M is magenta, which is the shade of pink. Y is for yellow, and K is for black. And depending on what levels and amount you put into a color, you can literally create every single color under the sun. The other thing that I put on my style sheet is a secondary color. So I have my primary color of blue for Standout Pro, and I have a secondary color of kind of a blue burgundy red. And so I also make notes of what my CMYK palette is on there. And then I usually have a third color. In this case, it happens to be white. Now, one rule of thumb that I learned from a lady who helped me when I was doing rodeo queen pageants was to have an outfit 60% of a main color, 30% of a secondary color, and 10% of an accent color. And I still, for the most part, follow that formula, whether I'm getting dressed for the day or I'm creating a style sheet or logo for myself or a client. 60% of your main color, 30% of your second color, and 10% of an accent color is a good rule of thumb that you can follow. Now, of course, depending on when you're listening to this, styles may have changed, so you may want to do a quick search and see what the new rules of engagement are for the current year. On the style sheet, I also include the fonts to use, whether it's a script font, a serif font, or a non-serif font, or something that is decorative or handwritten. What are all of those? A script font, you can consider it a very decorative type of font where it looks like you actually wrote it out by hand with beautiful penmanship. There's all sorts of different scripts to use out there. I like to use a script font in a limited basis. It can be very overpowering, but it can also be hard to read. You can use a serif font or a non-serif font. So a serif font, if you think about it, when you look at writing in a book, for the most part, like on the R, if there's a little tiny drop on the top of the R, that would be a font that is a serif. A non-serif font is like Arial. It has no embellishments on the font. It is literally this straight up and down edges. So if you look at your keyboard in front of you, if you're on a phone or you're on a computer, that is a non-serif font. Personally, I use a script font and then either a serif or a non-serif font. Within there, though, you can have different weights of that font. So you can have unlimited possibilities. Different weights would mean like it can either be regular, it can be bolded, or it can be heavy. You can also use italics. You can also underline to draw attention to certain words. Now, if you're designing for social media, you can use color. And this is where having your color palette figured out would help you to draw attention to certain parts that you want. Because if you have competing colors that you have big clash, like yellow and black, your eye is going to be drawn to the yellow when you use it in the proper format of highlighting certain areas that you want to. On the style sheet, I also have hashtags. Depending on the client and depending on the day, which we'll get to why, depending on the day, I use different hashtags. For Standout Pro, I use hashtag Standout Pro, hashtag Nikole Haumont, hashtag networking, hashtag LinkedIn. The reason I do that is, one, I am the primary teacher when it comes to Standout Pro. I teach people how to use LinkedIn and how to network online and offline, hence those 4 hashtags. With Time2Fly, our podcast, we have hashtag Time2Fly, hashtag Time2Fly podcast, and hashtag Give Your Business Wings, along with, depending on who your host is, we will sometimes do hashtag Jill Fleming or hashtag Nikole Haumont, along with their business, hashtag Beyond Logic, hashtag Living Beyond Logic, hashtag Standout Pro, hashtag Shield Bar. Having those hashtags gives you the opportunity to track on social media what is going on, what is trending. And if somebody searches for that particular hashtag, they are more likely to find your information if they know what they're searching for. Just to recap the style sheet, on there you're going to want to have your color palette. Pick out 3 colors that you want to use consistently. Pick out a script font and then either a serif or non-serif font that you want to use. Write it on the document. And then pick out 3 to 5 hashtags that you're going to use depending on your topic or the day that you're going to do it. Now, we'll be talking about the theme for a day here shortly. We are going to take a quick sponsor break. When we come back, I'm going to dive more into how to repurpose content and how to use a social media aggregator.
This episode is sponsored by Standout Pro, teaching you how to stand out and get more clients using LinkedIn. Get your free gift at standoutpro.com.
Welcome back to the Time2Fly podcast. I'm your host, Nikole Haumont. In my free download, 7 Simple Steps to Stand Out on LinkedIn, step number 7 is to be consistent and positive. You can get this 16-page guide free to download. All you have to do is go to time2flypodcast.com/7 steps, and we'll include that link in the show notes in case you need to access it later. So being consistent and positive, how do you do that? Well, you have to have a plan. You can't just pretend that you're going to wake up and do something every single morning. I've tried it. It doesn't work. You need to have a marketing plan in place so you know what you're going to be talking about and you're working ahead. So if life happens, you have posts that are scheduled and ready to go out there for you. So the first thing I want you to do is to develop a theme for the month. Now, I know sometimes a month isn't going to be a perfect theme. So for example, Valentine's Day happens to be February 14th, almost smack dab in the middle of the month. How am I going to develop a theme around Valentine's Day for the entire month of February? Well, you don't. You actually might start having Valentine-themed ideas starting the last week of January through the 15th of February. Depending on what type of business you are, it very well could be something as simple as wishing you a happy Valentine's Day, and you only do that on the 14th, or Happy Single Awareness Day, however fits your personality. But then think about this. If you're a service-based business, say a hair salon, and you sell gift certificates, you would want to start promoting that the last week of January through February 15th. Why the 15th? Because you could say, did you forget to buy her a gift certificate? Or did you forget to buy her that perfect gift? Swing on by on your way home from work. We got you covered. Now, sometimes Memorial Weekend through the July 4th could be a themed month. It could be all about the United States of America. It could be an Americana theme. It just depends on what type of information you want to put. So I want you to take out a piece of paper. I want you to write January through December out, and just for a few minutes, write what comes to mind for each month. This is not set in stone. You can always change it. Then what I want you to do is think about a theme for each day, not for all 365 days, What I'm talking about is think of a theme for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. For example, I have Share It Sunday. So this is a time for me to share about a webinar that I was on, a business conference I went to, an article that I read, and share a piece of knowledge, sharing somebody else's content on my page. I have Motivational Monday. I love motivational quotes. On my wall, I have 2 hanging. One of my favorites is, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, therefore, is not an act, but a habit," by Aristotle. See? Even he knew about consistency way back then. So Motivational Monday, I share quotes like that. On Tuesday, it's Tips and Tricks Tuesday. When was the last time you updated your LinkedIn profile picture? It is good to have new headshots taken at least every 2 years, or if your appearance has changed dramatically in the last 2 years. When you meet people in real life, you want them to be able to recognize you. Then I would include my hashtags, and I would include an appropriate photo. Sometimes I actually find photos from my stock photography completely good to use, and then I place the no sign over it saying, "Don't use this photo," and show an example of what they should use. Then I have What's New Wednesday. What are your thoughts? I'm really not sure what to think about the Facebook blow-up. As someone in marketing, I know that those fun quizzes collect personal data, but haven't given much thought to how much that data is actually worth. And then I share the article. That is something that my clients need to know about because I do marketing. It depends on what industry you're in, what they need to know about your industry. Talk about it Thursday. Next week, I'll be attending this workshop. Are you going to be there too? Learn more at this link. Frequently asked questions Friday. Can I post the same information multiple times on LinkedIn? Then share the answer. Yes, with LinkedIn's current algorithms, your content is shown in chronological order. Explain a little bit more, use the appropriate hashtags and an appropriate image. With Shout Out Saturday, I go in and on my LinkedIn or Facebook, I actually tag the person that I'm going to give a recommendation for. Sometimes they've written a book that I have really enjoyed, so I tag them, I mention the book name, and I pull out one nugget that I learned. Another time, maybe it's because I bought a new product from somebody or a new shade of lipstick from my unique distributor. Then I can tag them and say, "Oh my gosh, I'm loving this color that I picked up last week from Carly at Unique." It's just ways to promote other people while at the same time bringing attention to you. So you need your themes for your month, and then you need to come back and fill in your themes for your day. Now, I was just recently helping a new client with this. They happen to be a salon. And one of the things that we do with them is we decided to have it a little bit different than my standard stock that I use for myself. And you can totally make those 7 days whatever you want. Some people are saying, "Oh, but I can't do 7 days." Do at least 3 days a week. Get in the habit, be consistent. So 3 days a week. 1 week, do Monday, Wednesday, Friday. The next week, do Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. And I am going to share with you in a couple moments of what to do to schedule that to make your life easier. Now back to the salon, we decided to come up with a couple different themes, and they're going to start out with a 3-day-a-week post. So they're doing the Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and on Sunday, if they feel like it, they'll get it done. For Sunday, it's going to be called Share It Sunday. This is internal. There are people who follow them on their page don't know that it's Share It Sunday. That's just what we're calling it to get our mind to kind of think about it. On that one, they're simply going to put their online scheduling. Forgot to call into the salon and book an appointment? Click here, schedule now. Monday is going to be Movie Star Monday. So selfies that clients have shared of their new hairstyle or makeup, or photos that the stylists have taken are going to be featured on Movie Star Monday. Product Tuesday. They're going to showcase a product that they sell at the salon and give one tip of why or how to use it. Now, every single post you do, you want to have a graphic or an image or a photo with. All of them are the same thing, just different terminology for each one. The reason you want that, open up your phone, go to LinkedIn or go to Facebook. When you're scrolling through your feed, the pages that have shared content that have a photo take up a lot more real estate on your phone. So that means you're more likely to get seen if you have a photo or an image that is appropriate and goes with the post. So back to the salon, on Wednesdays, it's Service Wednesday. So they're going to do a write-up on every single service that they offer, and they're going to have a call to action that says call now to schedule and include their phone number. Thursdays, it's going to be Throwback Thursday. They're going to feature hairstyles from previous years, including the big pompadours from way back when, to the 1970s, to the 1920s, and everything to even what was in style last year. It's going to be Throwback Thursday. And then on Friday, it's going to be Facts and Fables Fridays. So they're going to do myth busting on hair care. So is it a fact or is it a fable? And then they're also going to ask some random questions to get the conversation going on their page. And then on Saturday, it's going to be Shout Out Saturday. This salon happens to have 8 different stylists. So each week, a different stylist is going to be featured with a call to action to call to schedule your appointment with them. So there are several different ways you can tweak the theme for each day of the week to fit your industry. So now you're probably going, oh my gosh, I have no idea how to do all of this. And I know it can be overwhelming, but just like if you were to eat a big old steak, how do you do it? One bite at a time. So I personally use a spreadsheet with tabs and my months and my weeks laid out in there. This is something that you can set up for yourself. You can do it based on the month, based on the week, or whatever. Within that spreadsheet, I have the theme of the day. I actually write the post. I name the image that I'm going to use. I put down the date it's going to be posted, and then I have a column that says, should I reuse this or not, and how often? So that's how I keep track. And now we're going to get into repurposing content and using a social media aggregator. I know, what the heck is an aggregator? I'll explain it in a minute. When it comes to creating content, what I want you to do is first gather up all the information that you have already created. Go through, look at what you've done. Make sure if you've done any print media ads, you have copies of all that. If you've written any articles, you have copies of that. If you've done videos, you know where they are. You know what they're titled. If you've written blog posts, you know where they're at. What we're going to do is we're going to repurpose content. So whether you've done a video or whether you've done a blog or written an article, there is tons of content within there that you can pull out snippets and blurbs and make a meme or create an entire graphic around. Then what you do is you can choose whether you want to link back to the original article or not, depending on what your call to action is. Or if you have a new free download that they can go get so they can get on your email list. Content is everywhere. You just got to find it. Now, if you're just starting a new business from scratch, it's going to be a little tougher. And I want you to go back and you're going to take it one piece at a time. So every single week, you are going to write a new blog post or you're going to shoot a new 5 to 10 minute video. And you're going to go through it and you're going to make notes. For me, I find it easier to talk. Even though it's easy for me to write, I still would rather do videos because I can do them faster. So shoot your video or write your notes, whatever is fastest for you, and then plan on repurposing that content. Depending on what your themes are for the day, you will have different things to use there. So now you have all of this created, you have it in your spreadsheet, you're ready to shout it out to the world. How do you do it without having to sit down every single morning and create a new post? You use a social media aggregator. The one I prefer to use is Hootsuite. It manages both Facebook and LinkedIn, my 2 preferred methods of communication when it comes to social media. And with the paid version, I can schedule my posts out 240 days in advance. Theoretically, I could sit down for an hour and I could create every Monday post for the next 240 days and have it done, have it scheduled, and not worry about it. That is not how I work. However, you could. So what I do is I try to sit down, and it's 2 different modes. One is planning and one is creating. So when it comes to planning and brainstorming, I set a timer and I brainstorm on paper. If I'm doing this at my office, I will set the timer. I'll turn on music, something that's not too distracting, and I'll just write down notes. A lot of times on the weekends when my husband's driving, because he likes to drive and I can work, I will sit with my notebook and I will brainstorm. I have pages of notes in my one specific binder that I use. I will set that timer for X amount of time and I'll just write whatever comes to my mind based on prompts of what I need to be accomplishing. So that's a brainstorm session. Then I have a planning session. So I sit down. It's not a perfect thing. It's what I strive to do. But every 30 days, I will sit down for a couple of hours and I will plan out the next 90 days. So that means I am planning out on the Excel spreadsheet. Then it comes to creation time. So what I do there is 1 day per week, I will create and schedule my posts for the next 10 days. Now, if you're only posting 3 days per week, I would make that create and schedule the next 10 posts, not the next 10 days. So then you even have longer. Now, the reason I say do that once a week and schedule for 10 days at a time is once you've gotten a few weeks under your belt consistently, if life happens and you have to make changes to your schedule and you don't have time to schedule your social media that week, you know in the back of your mind that you're covered for anywhere from 3, 6, 9, or 12 posts because you've been consistent the 2 to 3 weeks prior. So that's what I do. I set a timer to brainstorm. I set a timer to plan for 90 days out at a time. I try to do that every 30 days. And then I set a timer and I create and schedule for the next 10 days. With having assistants, I teach them to do the same process because if I have somebody else actually create it, it's because they're working off of the style sheet and themes that I gave them. But I log into Hootsuite and I double check everything before it actually posts so I can make any edits or changes to it. So in recap, be consistent, be positive, use a style sheet, have a theme for the month or a section of time, pick a theme for each day, use a spreadsheet to track everything, repurpose content, use a social media aggregator such as Hootsuite, schedule time and use a timer to brainstorm, to plan, and to create. Thank you for listening to this episode of Time to Fly. Be sure to join us for our next show where you can give your business wings.
A big thank you to this episode's sponsor, Standout Pro. Be sure to get your free gift at standoutpro.com.
Join our fly. Stay informed of all things Time to Fly by subscribing to our newsletter at time2flypodcast.com. And be sure to tune in to our next show.